Gerrit, how's it going, man?
Good. I'm good. Happy to be here. How are you doing?
Doing great. What you been up to and thinking about with what you got going on lately?
Yeah. There's a lot. It's kind of we're moving into busy season for video production. The grass is green outside. Everyone who's trying to shoot outdoors is trying to get it done. Um, yeah. I don't know. A couple of projects I'm working on right now. I got a couple shoots this week, and then probably one of the most fun things that I'm doing this year is we have a digital ad tourism campaign we're deep in post production for a district of Des Moines, made possible through the Iowa Tourism Office. So that's been a super fun, super creative thing to be a part of and work on. But yep,
Uh, I don't know if Travel Iowa's huge. What I was mostly going into is Catch Des Moines. Have you seen their stuff? They,
I have.
they do an extremely good job with it. Do you know the people behind the scenes of that?
Yeah, I've actually I think they use a couple different video agencies for what they do. Yeah, it's cool stuff.
Stuff. So talk about. I mean, I don't know how much you can with the Travel Iowa. I'm familiar with their social media presence, but don't know much about how they interact with areas and all that, and where.
Yep. So actually, basically, my only interaction with them for this is they're providing. So the district of Des Moines that I'm working with received tourism grant funds from them, and so that's kind of funding this project. So we're building out. I'm in charge of Soll Media is in charge of building out the video production part of the campaign, and then there's a landing page, and there's going to be some interactive kind of things to do, places to see in the district. So yeah.
Yeah. Last we talked was over sandwiches. What's that place called on your road? I forgot. I
Yeah.
was trying to point it out to a friend.
Was that Manhattan Deli?
It was Manhattan Deli. Yeah.
That's a good spot.
You were talking about setting your goals, and you were talking about working more on that strip. I believe you had a project recently there, right on that strip, kind of following through with that goal. Am I correct with that?
Yes. Yeah. That's probably the same thing that I'm talking about now. Yep. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. But what else have you been up to?
Um, yeah, a couple of things. So my two main focuses this year are obviously. So I guess for people watching this, I should give a little introduction to myself, maybe. Yeah. So I run a video production and content marketing business based out of Des Moines, Iowa, and what we really focus on is what I like to say is video assets for businesses marketing funnels. And so what I've been building out this year is what exactly does that mean? What's the strategy behind it? And, what does it actually look like for my business? Because I want to practice what I preach. So just putting all those video assets in place, because you really have, from a marketing perspective, looking at a marketing funnel, you have awareness, you have consideration, and you have decision, and then advocacy, and that kind of loops around. And so when you're bringing people through that funnel, how do you convert them? How do you reduce friction? And turns out video content is really good for that. From, top of funnel with social media content, paid ads, middle of funnel with brand story videos, product demos, that kind of thing, all the way to the bottom of the funnel till decision with client testimonials, FAQ videos, that kind of a thing. So I've been, working on this grand strategy of how it all works for my business, so I can also show how it can work for others. So that's been a big thing that I'm working on this year. We're kind of in the middle of a rebrand. I don't want to share too much about it because it's just a lot of stuff that we're prepping and getting ready. I say we, but I mean, it's me.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. And then also the second thing that I'm really focusing on this year is I'm wanting to really build out my personal brand, which is something I really admire that you've been able to do as Isaac Jarnagin. So what I'm trying to do with that is basically just be able to be a voice in my community in Des Moines, that's able to share, what I'm learning, be able to provide some value to other business owners, entrepreneurs, and creatives out there in Des Moines and I guess beyond. And so that's been a focus that I've been working on as well this year.
Yeah. Rebrand major or minor?
Major, name change and everything. So I want to, it's rough, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. It's difficult because the longer you stay within a certain brand, the more you build up your brand, the more brand equity you have. Yeah. And if you decide to scrap all that and change it, like, you're losing out on that big time. Yeah. So I've been trying to figure out how exactly we transition that and kind of pivot without losing some of that brand equity. So that's been an interesting journey. I just think from where I am right now, I think it's a necessary thing to do. So
it's something I was able to do more freely when I was younger, because kind of like, it's just me, myself, and my computer. And so if I ever want to change something, it's fine. You don't really see that. But when you're finally out meeting people, talking to people, wearing your brand colors and all that, you really notice, does this actually help or hurt? And you really have to decide with it. So it's interesting. So I feel the pain there, but also there's opportunity as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What's your personal brand workflow look like? And you're really talking about experiences and what you're learning from them. Or are you trying to be educational as much as possible?
Yeah. So that's actually, it's funny you bring that up. I'm actually trying to work out what are my content pillars, as I guess you can use the term content creator when it comes to what I do for my personal brand. A lot of it's just creating content. So what are the things that I like stand by? What's the type of content I make? And what I'm working with right now is I have three. My journey as an entrepreneur. I feel like that word has so much stigma attached to it, and I hate. I think we've talked about this before, but it really is. You're trying to create value with the ideas that you have, and that's entrepreneurship. Then, so my journey, what I'm learning, what I'm experiencing, what I'm going through. Then the tips and tricks that I picked up along the way. That's kind of pillar number 2, usable, tangible advice. And then number 3 is community building. Something that I've learned, and I think we've talked about this too as well, is like, you really can't do everything alone. And you need people to bounce ideas off of, to hop on a podcast with, that kind of stuff. So, or that kind of stuff. So that's, those are the 3 pillars that I want to build content around. And then it's just, from there, scripting content. I have about probably 3 months of content built out right now that I need to get out and shoot it. So I've been steadily working on that. It's just, the problem with running a video production company and also trying to build a personal brand is a lot of time needs to be spent over here. And then like the remainder of the time gets spent building my personal brand. And that's, one of my like phrases that I go by this year is trying to treat myself like a client, kind of like I was talking about right at the beginning, to building out my own processes and showing results from that for myself. So
yeah, personally, you have to respect your own processes that you respect with other people, but except to yourself. So like, you have the processes there, you have the professionalism there to do it. You just need to respect yourself enough to be able to do it with yourself.
Yep. And dedicate the time to it, and, just power through with it. So if I can kind of ask a question of you, as someone who's kind of built that personal brand and continues to evolve it, what's your journey kind of looked like so far? And I know you're kind of hopping into that content grind again this summer. Is there how do you evolve from where you've been? Do you need to evolve? What do you kind of see as the future of your personal brand?
I think it's just, man, I took a lot of time to think about that, because start of the year, I dropped a lot of my stuff, right? Not putting out the posts that I need to be putting out. But finally here in June is kind of when I've been going, all right, we're back on the hammer. I think mainly it's just been taking the time and have the respect for yourself, but a combination of having a production day for yourself and having stuff that goes out, so you have the peace of mind that things are going out and you're doing your duty, and then having that set you free so that you're able to make stuff in your free time that you want to make anyways, and then being able to throw it out whenever you want. So it's been taking the filter off a bit. I really respect how you've kept the, you know how to make stuff look professional and nice, and kind of made it that way. I want to do a little bit of both, of pick up my phone and make stupid videos that I want to make, as well as put out professional stuff and all that, but just being a part of that. So I have a strategy hour for myself of what I want to put out. And then like a week after that, I'll actually produce that stuff. And then I'll schedule it out a month ahead. And then, like I said, you have that component where you can be presently thinking about content too and have some fun with that as well. So
That's, yeah.
how are they going about it?
Gotcha. Yeah. That's something that I've really wanted to dive into more as well, is how much of it is like kind of polished and produced content versus like how much of it is just picking up my phone. And I'm considering like, either like, so different channels can kind of do different things for you, when it comes to social media, when it comes to building a brand. And so I'm considering if I just do everything through like my main platform, which is Instagram. I post like the best bits of that on LinkedIn and stuff as well, and it gets traction there. But I'm considering if I should keep everything kind of central to Instagram, or if I also want to start like a TikTok channel where it's literally just the most raw, like pick up my phone, I'm on a shoot, I just noticed this, wanted to share it in like 30 seconds, that kind of a thing. I'm wondering if it's worth it.
There's few takes on it. I don't have an opinion really, but I'm making the content, might as well throw it everywhere, which is great. You know, you can do your net analogy of there's so many platforms. And so if you cast your net to all of them, it's bound to catch different people on each one.
Mm-hmm.
There's that. But I see brands, specifically Northern Vessel, that literally just prioritize one and do it extremely well. And they have a better brand than if they were to try to do 5 channels, right? So I see both sides. I kind of have gone into the find your scheduler you like, make as many platforms, and just treat them as like almost outlets. I try to relate it to like, you know, if I was a news channel, you know, I'm going to put it almost, no, that's not a good example. If I was an actual like public figure, and I don't consider that, and I never will, but let's say I'm going to want to hit as many news channels as possible, you know, ABC, CBS, all those, whatever. I kind of almost see that as social media too, is like, I just kind of use them as tools that people leverage their attention towards. I might as well use them. They're going to come and go. But the end of the day, I just want to be putting the message out from the top here, and I just kind of use them as replacements. But like I said, I love how people really focus on one and are able to learn more about the news features and all that, because you miss out on that if you're just using schedulers. And a lot of times if you use schedulers, stuff's breaking and not working right, or you're not tagging a business when you can be, stuff like that. So it depends. Where are you leaning toward right now, you think, with that?
With just where to put my content and
platforms
whatnot?
And trying to differentiate them and all that?
Yeah. I mean, like you're saying, any content, basically putting your content out there is better than not doing anything at all, right?
Yes.
It's just, I guess it kind of a little bit has to do with the volume of it. If you don't have that much time to dedicate to it, I mean, just put as much stuff out there as you can, and you know, but I feel like I'm kind of at a point where I can segment things a little bit, you know, and this is also a broader topic. We're kind of moving, I think, away from massive global interconnected social media platforms and more towards people building smaller communities. So I want to be able to offer certain things to certain communities. And it also has to do with meeting people where they're at when they're looking with, you know, when they're scrolling through content, when they come across your stuff. Is it going to be valuable, you know, and meet them where they're at? So I know, like for TikTok, like not a lot of people go there for information. I see filmmakers post their stuff there and it's really cool, but like, you know, sometimes the super flashy B-roll cinematic stuff gets a lot of views. But it's not really a value channel that way. It's more a casual, an entertainment kind of space, where you can, it's basically, I kind of think of TikTok like FaceTiming a friend. And it's off the cuff. It's a lot more raw. Then you get to Instagram, which kind of started as a TikTok clone when they introduced Reels, but it's kind of turned into this more professional space. Instagram, more than anything, even like honestly for smaller creators, more than a website, it's become a portfolio space. And so putting some of like your more better polished work on there, I think does better and resonates better with who's coming across it, than it would on TikTok. And then again, like a channel like LinkedIn, like that's where, you know, the top leaders of our communities and businesses, get together and look at stuff. And there's a lot of stuff you got to wade through on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But I've found the most value has come from connecting with local people in the community, and then being able to share, more local takes, that kind of information on there, that connects to a local community. So that was kind of a roundabout. I don't even know if I answered your question. That's just kind of what's on my mind when it comes to talking about all these different social channels.
Yeah, and then it's kind of hard too. And what I like about personal brand is, you've divin less into the I'm a social media management guy or anything. Like, you're not that at all, or you could be, but you don't prioritize that, which I understand. But you're expected to be a professional at all times, and so sometimes I like messing up on my personal brand. I get to learn things about these platforms and, stuff like trial reels that randomly pop up. And I'm like, what are these, right? Which is Instagram. I don't know. Have you seen those?
Yeah. Are you talking about like the feature where you can introduce it to like a smaller audience, and then like if it does well, then
the concept is it pushes it toward people that aren't a part of your following. And
right.
If it does well, then it goes on to it. And so some people I've seen use that as a hack. This is how I can get new people. It's literally a guarantee that it's not people that already follow me. So like I'm bound to reach more people. So I've seen like people saying like, trial a real hack. Like, I don't know the validity of that term. But, just stuff like that. They always pop up all the time, and you're expected to be an expert in that. And if you're not going to test it on a client stuff very much, right? Because you want to make sure you have a good understanding of it. So I like messing up a little bit on my personal brand too. So being able to go away from, trying to be professional side of this, help me out with that too. But
yeah,
you see creators that hold their brand guidelines though, and it's so satisfying. It really is. I want to be that so bad.
Yeah. I feel like that used to be more of a thing too when it came to social channels, is like you have a very specific brand message and tone, and you stick to it, and your Instagram feed looks perfect. And I'm personally very glad we've kind of moved away from that. It's still kind of there. Like everyone kind of has a style that they adopt, I feel like, at the end of the day, but I feel like it's a little more freeing than it's going to be like, we're going to have like a red shot and then a graphic post and then a green shot and then a graphic, like I feel like a lot of businesses are kind of stuck doing that, using those Canva templates. And that's not connecting with anyone. That's not doing anything for their business. So
the poster board posts never are definitely falling off by now. So we're against our billboard posts is what I meant. It looks like it'd just be on a billboard.
Yeah.
My main thing for like, all right, I literally care minimally about this now. I held on to aesthetic so long, but when they switched from square posts to 4x5 on Instagram specifically, that's when I'm like, okay, this is not a priority anymore, and I don't think it should be, because it's not efficient at all unless you have a massive team and you have a specific Instagram department I gotta go to my feed and switch my posts so that they look better in a 4x5 rather than square. Like, people were going and doing that and tweaking their feeds, and I'm like, this is not a good use of time. Let's let go of this a little bit.
Yep.
But one thing with you that I always think of that I have not stepped into is you've been a part of sets better, like with actual professionals coming in, gaffers and ACs and all those people. And that's a newer thing, right? Pretty.
Kind of. I think the way productions happen now is definitely very different than it was a few years ago.
Okay. I was saying for you being a part of
Sure. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's a space I've always kind of been adjacent to it. And this is also something that I feel like a lot of creatives come across, specifically if you brand yourself as a videographer. There's a very clear distinction between videographer and video production, or video production company. And that's kind of what I'm trying to make that transition to, because a videographer, generally, it's a much more it's a much more linear approach where you show up to something, you film as much as you can, and you kind of put the story together at the end out of what you've gotten. Whereas with video production, you kind of start with like you start in reverse, kind of. I guess you plan out the entire thing. You have your shot list. You have like who's doing what. You build out this whole process so that when you get there, you get to the shoot, you already know what the end goal is exactly going to look like, more or less. It's just fulfilling that. It's a very different creative process, but it also allows for a lot more collaboration. It allows for a lot more quality, and it's a much more fascinating space, I think, for me to be in. Mm-hmm. So, and I've been I work on crews. I've been hired for other people's to be a gaffer role or something like that, or but I also have been trying to bring people on for my own projects in those roles as well. So it's been super fun.
Right. You've done some, people have come down and done some bigger commercials. What do you notice different? Obviously you've done running around videographer type stuff younger in your career as compared to now you're a little more organized. What do you see the big difference between those two sort of approaches, from those sets to when you've been a little more on your own?
Kind of like I was talking about before, it just allows for a more collaborative process, which allows for a much better end result. When I can just focus on being, the DP, the director of photography, just my camera stuff, and we've got a gaffer who's taking care of the lighting and checking in with me that it all looks good in camera, and we've got someone else helping with the talent, and there's a producer who's helping kind of string everything together. It allows you to be so much better at the one thing that you're doing. And, when it all comes together at the end, it's just a much more satisfying result. It's much more valuable a lot of times. And it's just, it's a lot more creatively fulfilling, but then again, for the client as well, it's generally a much better result than, a much more polished result. I guess it kind of depends on what the end product is supposed to be. Whereas when you're a videographer, when you're running around, running and gunning, there's a lot of fun in that as well. But also, again, the process, like you have to be shooting for the edit, and you might not know quite what that looks like in your mind yet. And it's usually, just yourself or maybe a couple of people, and we're all wielding cameras. And there's a lot more room for hiccups and mistakes and missing out on stuff that could help with the process when it comes to post-production. So
when I watch behind the scenes videos, I appreciate how because I've never had too much experience with production crews. Would love to do BTS or something like that, just to be around one. It'd be fun. But it seems like more chill acts because you're going in prepared, and everybody knows what they're doing. And obviously there's some sort of creative goal of we're going to reach this end point. Like you said, you leave more creatively satisfied.
Yeah. And that's a big thing that I always want to hammer home is like, as a creative person, surrounding yourself with other creative people, especially people that are better than you, is the best thing you can do for yourself. Because it allows for an experience where you can learn so much, where, you might think of something that you can offer, that someone else didn't know. It's just so much fun and so much better, and leads to much less burnout at the end of the day if you're trying to do everything yourself. So yeah.
You leave with a fuzzy head if you're running multiple roles on your own. You really do, and you're probably bound to make a mistake too on the videographer end.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I didn't realize I would enjoy quite so much the entire pre-production process. That is the most important and thorough part of, building a video. And I've had a couple of projects recently where I've gotten to really, really get into the details, like even producing like previs assets where you basically just like, film like a very, just off the cuff version of what it's going to look like, but you have all your, you use whatever shots you're using, you use random props for certain things, a glass of, glass jar for stands in for something else. And you just put together the whole, product, at the beginning, and then like building out like shot list spreadsheets and schedules and going to location, doing tech scouting and shooting and figuring out how it's all going to come together. It's so like, I don't know. It's a lot of fun. And it also, again, it's just so much better at the end of the process.
Yeah. Talk about that deeper. What is your ideal pre-production look like from the get-go?
That's a good question. So it should really, the process really starts with once you have a script or a certain visual or a certain idea that you want to end up with, and then it's building out all the little pieces of like, how do you get there? So the script really comes first. If it's like a creative spot, knowing the script is going to inform you how much talent you need to have, the actors, what is the locations you're going to need, what is the gear kind of going to look like, and then you start to put those pieces together as well. And it really depends if you're acting as a producer or just as a part of the process. I actually talked with a really cool dude who's I've been able to work with a couple of times, Dan Wu, based out of Chicago. He runs Dual Native. It's a production studio, and he kind of led me through his process, and that's very much informed my process as well, because I'm still slightly newer to this. But starting with the script, and then from there, deducing these are the shots we're going to need. It becomes this very granular thing almost. You line up all the shots, what frame rate you're going to shoot it in, what lenses you're going to need. It sounds really boring when I start talking about like this, but I promise it's really fun. As someone who likes to organize things, and someone who also overthinks everything, getting that done is so great. And then, finding talent, if you're working with like a agency, or, if you're working with volunteers or figuring that out, finding locations, is also a big step. And physically going to those locations, bringing a camera with you, with the, the focal lengths that you're thinking of shooting at, capturing, either some previs, like I was saying, or just some of the frames that you're looking for. So that's another really big part of the process. Making, if you need like permits to film somewhere, that's another big thing. Making sure you have permission. So I don't know, there's all these little things, but it starts with the script, and then the script kind of informs everything else.
Yeah. I've been contemplating, not that I necessarily need it, but just trying to build a rough, just in like Notion, like a Notion database of like a contractor list. Who's around? What do they do? What would they generally price wise feel good going home with? And just having that available. I feel like that'd be powerful and nice. Do you have anything like that for the local people?
I don't personally have a database, but I feel like, having been in Des Moines for several years now, I am mostly connected into that group. There's so many very, very talented people in Des Moines, Iowa. And it kind of feels a little weird because I am somewhat of a newcomer. I don't know. I'm many levels below what some of these people are doing. But everyone is just so nice and willing to help out and, either mentor or, come on for a job, or get me on a job so I can kind of see how they do things. So I don't have like a specific database. I should maybe think about like doing that, just listing down a whole bunch of names. But I mean, I kind of have my regular people that I reach out to now when I need help, when it's a bigger production. So that's a good idea though. Yeah.
I've been slowly building out that process because it's of interest to me as I grow, but not totally dove into. But like you said, it gets super specific. Ideally you have contracts for every contract you're bringing on, making sure they're understanding the project scope. And obviously you got to edit that for each one, when, where to show up, what's looking, is there a dress or all that, pricing, all that.
Yeah. And
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, you're kind of a level above me in that. So you're kind of Integrity Grove is like a full service marketing agency, right? Would you say that? So
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say more of what like my company does is it's video production and content marketing,
Yeah.
but that kind of fits under the umbrella of like your agency. So you're having to deal with like if you were to hire my business to do something, like you have that whole like umbrella of that as well.
A higher percentage of what you do is more production. We're in that realm, but it's a subset of what we do. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Exactly.
if you need a step above your average, social shoot, which you've done before, we're there, and we've got the expertise, and probably will fit your price range better than a full production age, or but all that. But we're able to do it. But I've looked into the worlds of people that go into heavy, and it was fun detailing. I saw someone's pricing sheet, and they're like, "Oh, we got all my gear I own. I price per dollar for each shoot." I'm like, "Well, you're renting out the gear too. It costs money to do that." So I'm like, "Oh, it's so crazy and all that." So
Yeah.
a lot of stuff to build out there, but
Yeah.
really interesting. Where did you really feel like? How long have you really stepped into that? I get the process look. Like, you have the look where and I don't even know how to describe what I'm saying, but you know what I'm saying.
Sure. Yeah.
How long have you felt like you've had that?
I don't know, man. It's so different from project to project. There's been projects still like I'll start a project with a client and I know exactly how it's going to run down.
Yeah.
But there's also things where it's a complete different learning experience. It's just there's such a variety of different things that happen with clients and projects, and it's just like, I don't know. I definitely would not be your be all end all resource to everything video production. I do feel like I'm in a comfortable spot where I'm able to figure everything out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just like also just an experience thing. Like getting projects under your belt, getting things done. You learn a little bit with every project. I've been in the area and doing this long enough now that, again, I kind of have, I feel like a little bit of my finger on the pulse. I also feel like I have a unique perspective as someone who's both interested in the creative, but also the strategy, and pairing those two things. And that really helps inform how I structure my projects. But that's something like I know like a lot of businesses build out SOPs, standard procedures, that kind of stuff. And that's like, I'm somewhat doing that myself as I go, but it's kind of like in like backtracking and figuring out what I did and then, putting it together in some sort of document to inform me for next time, saying, "Hey Gerrit, just remember this for next time." Yeah, I don't know. I keep tending to ramble on these questions, but I would say it's just a going out there and getting it done kind of thing. You're not going to learn anything, sitting in front of your computer watching videos of other people do it. You got to go do it yourself. And that's also why I'm so grateful for the creative community in Des Moines who's been able to get me on their shoots. And, it's another way to learn is, seeing how other people do it and taking what works for them and seeing if it works for you.
Growing up, I thought there was nobody, but moving and connecting, you realize there's some stud muffins out there.
Stud muffins. Yeah. Yeah.
I still haven't met the ones that are really doing it. You know what I mean? So it's all fun and exciting. But
man, yeah, especially like even like in the Midwest, like it's great that we can connect to people like coast to coast. But like, dude, the Midwest is so full of like really cool people that know their stuff. It's great.
Yeah. Go 5 hours over. Chicago's got a huge scene there.
Mm-hmm.
I know people with no doubt in their mind, like, if you moved here, you could find a spot and have work. And I'm like, oh, that's so crazy, because it feels like there'd be more of a competitive landscape there, but which I'm sure there is, but it's all crazy. Video, not that long ago, kind of seemed like, not really, but was a little more of a luxury thing. Like, if you have a business, you got some dough and you want to show some stuff off, you do video with kind of no stuff in mind. So that was fun to be a part of, but now it's felt more strategic, and the people that are luxury and nice, you price a lot for, and it's very competitive. But now you have to really hone in your video and niche down to a strategy side of it, which is what I appreciate about your approach, is you are general video-ish if you want to be quick to explaining it, but you have your stuff that you really specialize in and know how to. When did you really start to develop that, vision of the strategy side of Soll Media?
I think it's kind of always been a thing for me. And something like I've always been kind of fascinated by that because it's video marketing. It's not just a video. Like, a couple years ago, you might have been able to like produce something cool for business and everyone be like, wow, oh, that's so awesome. But what does it really do for them besides that? And so digging into that, that's why I've really come to love the term video asset. Because these are assets, these are valuable pieces of how you run your business. And that's what informed the kind of the language that I use today when I speak about Soll Media, video assets for a marketing funnel. Because in my opinion, that's really where video stands out. That's where video does its job. It captures attention and can reduce friction and convert people to the next stage of your marketing funnel way better than anything else. And so if you're just a business and you're putting, social content out there, and all your social content is basically like, we have this sale, or come on down and buy a car, or some, stuff like that, that's not doing anything for you. But understanding where that falls in your marketing funnel at the top, social content, allows you to kind of inform your strategy going forward. What are you going to put on your socials? And are you going to become like an industry expert in your space? Are you going to go like the entertainment route? I've seen like, there's like this TikTok channel for a car dealership that produces like an office show. I think I've barely looked into it, but that's like an interesting way to build a brand. There's just a lot of different ways to do it, but you have to view, where is that at in your marketing funnel? You can't expect sales 100% right away from your social media. Again, like also if you like have video on your website, that's great, but that's just part of the marketing funnel. If you have a brand story video, like that's amazing. But understanding where it is and what it does and what the other pieces of that funnel are around it, that's really important.
Yeah, you've talked about brand stories, you've talked about FAQs and all that. What video asset have you seen the most need of or want to see more businesses implementing, either or?
I would say the number one thing, especially as tools like Google's VO3 kind of enter the space, real actual client testimonials, people that have worked with your product or service, and who loved it, because there's a lot of different ways you can go with that. You can produce a talking head, kind of corporate video with a client testimonial. You can go the creative route, build kind of a more visual story around it. I always love doing that. But in a world where that's like an opening movie title, in a world, no, but where trust is going to become a lot of businesses' most important asset, in an age of over information, having actual people that have experience with your product or service, and putting that everywhere, I think is going to be super important.
Yeah. I mean, this might put you on the spot a little bit, but if I were to come to you like, well, it'd only sit on our YouTube, like what would you say back to that? Like a client testimonial?
I mean, a YouTube is definitely a channel you can put it on, but I mean, I'm talking about, we can run this thing as some sort of paid ad. There should be a testimonial section on your website, somewhere on your website. It should be on there. This is something that, like, if you're a business that goes to trade shows or something like that, show that on your TV display at your booth, wherever you can get, people who can connect with that story and, put themselves in their shoes, and who know that's, a real experience with the real you. That's huge. And again, that's a tool. Client testimonials, I think, are one of the most versatile assets you can have, but they also definitely sit towards the bottom of your funnel. When people are searching up, what product or service to go with. Why should they choose yours? Well, the number one thing they want to do, a lot of people, I do this all the time. I'll Google search, best, me and my wife are getting into biking, best, gravel bike, Reddit. I'll put Reddit at the end and see what real actual people are saying in these forums.
$3,000.
Yeah, dude, bikes are expensive. It's crazy. We got some secondhand ones off Facebook Marketplace to start with, but, so it's a really important asset to own, and you can kind of put it everywhere, but it's really about that decision process at the end of the funnel, converting them to the final step of the way.
Some of the people that worked with me are concerned about like, well, people are deleting social media, and which is true, but also there's still so many people that are still using it, right? But it's like, how do we make sure that this stuff translates to newsletter and stuff like that? And I'm like, well, if you use that, you can always have your social stuff. You always have some sort of topic you're talking about. You can always be like, newsletter, here's sections, here's a video asset, then here's some written word. Bam. Like, not only do you have to not choose topics to talk about because you've already talked about them, and then you got your text asset too. So even when it seems like social content goes in the dust too, like you can use that to support other assets as well. So stuff like that.
Yeah. And yeah, that's huge. And having a kind of a unified strategy, again, going back to those content pillar things, if you're going to talk about stuff in these specific pillars, you can deploy assets talking about that, for each pillar, all the way through the funnel. And that also goes a great way towards building brand equity, building recognition, building trust. Yeah.
As I practice, I like making sure I'm covering all of the ways people can consume information. So I'm trying to be good about short form video, a huge way people consume. I'm trying to be good about long form video. You've seen how YouTube's continuing to be the most used platform, blah, blah, blah. And then trying written word a little bit, which I've been worse on, but staying sharp with that. But there's just so many different ways. And then long form video podcasts. I think my last one, well, I'll have some uploading here soon, but besides that, my last ones were late last year, so it's good to get back into that. But just being in tune with all the different ways people consume information and knowing how to be effective with all those. Super.
Yes.
And they all integrate together if you really want to try to make that happen. You know what I mean?
Yep. So. Yeah, they're all part of the sphere of how everything works, especially like when you talk about having a YouTube channel, having a long form, having a podcast, those are owned channels. That's really important right now when SEO, I know people are always like, SEO is dead. SEO is kind of changing into AEO, answering engine optimization with AI and whatnot. So having channels that you own, and then of course channels that you pay for, paid ads, that kind of stuff, and then earned media as well. Those are kind of like the three bubbles. I think it's really important right now to have owned channels for your business, like a podcast, like a YouTube channel where you're putting out your own content and you can repurpose it, for certain things. But
and linking it back to your website, you got more beef onto your website now, and it all works together. I'm learning more and more about it, so it's been fun.
Yep, the whole ecosystem.
You going to the Creatives POV event here Friday?
Is that this Friday?
I think so. I haven't seen anything about it. It's on my calendar. I don't even know if it's a thing, but it's been nice to have.
Yeah, I think I can make it. I have to be able to shoot later on Friday, but
if they announce anything.
I've missed the last couple, and that's always super great. Just like I was saying, linking up with other creative people.
Exactly right. I don't see anything about it. I literally just have a monthly reminder for the first Friday, so maybe it's not happening. But it's been a great way to get into Des Moines. I don't do it enough.
Yep. Des Moines pretty cool.
Eli and I went to Chain and Spoke. We were so close to, I was just going to be like, what's Gerrit up to? But I did not want to make you go somewhere with 10-minute notice.
That's funny. It's funny you didn't see me there. I'm at Chain and Spoke a lot of the time. I think I'm going to be there even more now that I'm picking up cycling, but
yeah. No, I saw that. Someone went up to me while I was there just working. He's like, are you the guy that's going to fix my bike? I said, no, you do not want me doing that. He's going to be over there, the guy working on bikes.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Can you fix my bike?
No, you don't want me to. But appreciate you taking the time on to talk a little bit about stuff. Looking forward to continuing to connect with you and see what you're up to. And you're fun to follow along with, my man.
Thank you. Yeah, you too. I hope I didn't ramble too much or take too much of the airtime here. This is 45 minutes kind of rumbled by. So
It's supposed to be an intentional